When everything is marketing and marketing is everything, taglines and trends are just the tip of the proverbial iceberg. On the M Word, we're talking marketing and mission and the pursuit of what's personal. I'm your host, Jennifer Mulchandani, and you are listening to the M Word podcast presented by Arlington Strategy. Today, I'm talking with Scott Marshall, the president and CEO of the Institute for Shipboard Education, a 61-year-old nonprofit that directs Semester at Sea, the world's leading comparative study abroad program. During our conversation, you'll hear the term semester at sea many, many times. This is a one-semester-long study abroad program that takes students from all across the United States and internationally on a voyage to 10 or 11 countries in a semester, where they're taking a full load of college classes and engaged in field experiences in each country of port to support their learning. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation with Scott Marshall. Welcome to the M Word, Scott. Thank you for being here.
Thrilled to be here. Thanks so much, Jennifer.
Yeah, as I told you, like when we were, just getting on the call here today, like this is a personal conversation as much as I'm excited about talking about the brand that you are shepherding in this world. One of your many points of who you are is you are at the helm of the Institute for Shipboard Education, which is a fancy long word for the org that runs Semester at Sea, which I have sailed. I have children who have sailed and will sail, and we'll get into all that goodness of what that really is. But in that role, how you are an academic. You are a recovering faculty member. I don't know what you call it, recovering associate dean. How does an academic find himself at the helm of a international study abroad brand? It's a program, a brand, obviously academic, but tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got to where you are.
Well, let's be clear. Nothing has gone as planned. It's all, capturing opportunities when they seem to be shining brightest and making the best of them. I spent the first half of my career as an academic and loved my time in higher ed. I have continue to have great admiration for what higher ed does for young adults. And at the same time, I think my career ran its course within higher ed, finished off as a vice provost, did not have interest for myself in seeking a provost position. And as much as I enjoyed the classroom, I also really wanted sort of the entrepreneurial, innovative business, bottom line, accountability, all that in my life. Felt like it was a missing piece. And I got sabbatical and had a chance to actually go on semester at sea as a faculty member. Back in spring of 17, my wife and our two boys went. And as you know, Jennifer, it just takes a few weeks on that ship and going into country and going in another country and building that community. You realize that this is just an extraordinarily powerful experience. It's a powerful experience for the students, for the faculty, for the staff. There's just nothing like it. And I was fortunate to become aware of a position here at the Institute. And we finished that voyage in late April of 2017. By October of 17, I was part of the Institute. Walked away from full professor, walked away from tenure, and happily joined this small, crazy nonprofit that runs an awesome program.
Okay. There's so much that you just said that we're going to have to dive into, but I want to start with, you said, and I think I'm directly quoting here, nothing has gone as planned. So what was your plan as a young pup in college yourself? Like when you say nothing has gone as planned, like, is that more tongue in cheek or really did you, looking back, you go, wow, that was very unexpected?
Yeah, it was a bit tongue-in-cheek and also true. That is, I gradually came to terms with the fact that I was going to be involved internationally. in some way, in some method, in some career. I didn't know how that was going to take shape. Um, and, part of that was spurred on by my interest in Japan and undergraduate, my study abroad, my time living there. Um, then I started working for another organization that sent me to other countries, and I did my PhD uh, looking at issues comparing Peru and the US, and uh, then got a job as a faculty member and started to lead study abroad and so forth. I just knew it was going to be international. I didn't know how,
Hmm.
right? So, yeah, it didn't go as planned in that, 7 years ago, I couldn't have told you, and I would have thought you were off your rocker, that I was going to be the president and CEO of this institute. I mean, that just wasn't even part of the event horizon I was playing with. But here we are, and I hope it's something that people can take something away from, and that is, live into your passion, and whatever opportunity that presents.
Yeah, and I think there is a lot there, and I sort of share in that, like, I think you said something about, just being open to opportunities, like
Yeah.
receive them when they're in front of you,
Yeah.
and as opposed to I'm going to head there in 20 years, and this is the 5 ways I'm going to
Yeah.
get there. And I think it's so many of the leaders that I end up talking to on this program are share that similarity in that it's so much of when you are leaning into your authenticity and your own passion, it really is about just allowing yourself to be open to what comes to you as opposed to trying to direct things.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's I I think it's fascinating you talked about your own personal passions in international something, as you said. Semester at Sea, ISE, this is a 60-plus-year-old brand, right? And you, in your role as president and CEO, are you're at the helm of this helm. See how I worked that in? I didn't even.
Well done.
Um,
Well done.
Thank you, thank you. Um, you are responsible for the caretaking of this. It has a brand in and of itself. It has 60 years of alumni as stakeholders. Is that i- does that have weight to it, the fact that it is so well established? Is there extra care that comes into that, or in a way does it make your job easier to sort of be leading something that is so well entrenched?
Well, I think, like so many things, this is a case where you have to hold what seem like opposing forces at the same time. That is that, the program was established in 1963. It has over 70,000 alums. Uh, it is very meaningful to all of those alums. And, um, we can only control what we can control, and we have to show up the best we can every day. Uh, and, things will play out as they do. So I say that obviously I give a lot of thought to how to show up the right way and care for the program. Um, but I am unwilling to shoulder all of the burden, and it would be a bit crazy to think any one person could. Uh,
Hmm.
we depend on our alumni to be advocates, to be strong voices, to be philanthropic, to spread the word. We have an amazing leadership team here. We have a phenomenal staff. We have a dynamic and committed board. All of these people play such a key role. And I think most importantly, my job is to listen, and filter those voices to ensure that I ultimately make the right decisions when I have to.
Hmm. I think that's fascinating, and I think your it's not even recognition, but it's almost like your unwillingness to say, "Hey, me and my executive team are going to sort of define what this all means and run it. A lot of brands do that, right? They very close to the chest in terms of like, what is their marketing and how is their messaging? And you are not only saying we have all these stakeholders, you're saying whether they know it or not, maybe I am filling in some of that blanks. They have a role in this and a responsibility in this. And it's not just up to those who are tasked administratively with the operational side of it. The brand is it fair to say it's a living force, like kind of outside of any entity's control in some regards?
I think that's fair. I would say we will stay true to the core, absolute core of what it is: comparative, experiential, international, ship-based community. Those attributes will always be true to Semester C. We cannot be something other than those attributes. At the same time, how that's carried out has to continue to evolve and grow, has to be innovated based on what's happening in the world. We have to respond to what the young generation is seeking. We have to find different ways to reach that audience. We have to find new ways to communicate to our university partners the value of comparative international, experiential, ship-based education, visiting 10 countries, right? We have to do all that. So we have to stay open to how we do what we do as long as we stay true to those core attributes. And those core attributes, as you know, Jennifer, have been around since 1963. And they should be true in 2063, far after I'm
retired.
Retired. Let's just say retired. Indeed.
I agree. Semester at Sea, it's rooted in something. It's at its fundamental core, its mission. It's a highly mission driven. You're a nonprofit. Your purpose is beyond anybody's. It's not about making money. It's about, impact, right? You talk about, you have all these underpinnings in the mission. As I was getting ready to talk to you, I was thinking, I was like, and as an alum, like that's so important. It's being able to look back with my beautiful 2020 lenses on what this program did for me and my perspectives on the world. That's a very different place than me as a 20-year-old with the glossy brochure going, I'm going to go on a ship and I'm going to visit 10 countries. And wow, isn't that so cool and unique? And so, I wonder from your perspective, when you think about all those stakeholders you were talking about who sort of have ownership and brand at the large level, when you're marketing, when you're trying to, at the base of like sort of grow the brand and, attract new customers, because even as a nonprofit, you have to do that.
Yeah.
Is all that highfalutin mission stuff that we feel good about as older adults, is that resonating with the young people today? Or is it the, amazing social media that is being produced on a daily basis on the ship in real time? Or is it a combination?
Yeah. Maybe I can try to capture it in talking about margin, mission, and message, right? So at the top, we have a mission, and ours is very clear: to create journeys of discovery that spark bold solutions to global challenges. Create journeys of discovery that spark bold solutions to global challenges. So we want to attract individuals who are curious about the world and about themselves and come away with ideas on how they can be agents of positive change in the world. No doubt about it. That is our mission. Then there's the margin. Like, we're a nonprofit, we're mission driven, and we need to make more money than we spend. Not a lot. Like, we're not publicly held, we're not profit driven, but we have to make more than we spend. Otherwise, we don't carry out our mission. Right? And so it goes to your question about message. How do we message this to our different audiences to attract enough students to achieve our margins so we can achieve our mission, right? There's this basic logic, and maybe oversimplistic, so I apologize if This is just too basic in connecting these things. But we have to pull in students who want to join us. And to your exact point, there's a lot of them who look at a glossy brochure and say, wow, that is so cool. I want to do that. And then they go, oh, I also have to take college courses. Oh, okay, I'll sign up for college courses. Oh, I also need to be part of this community. Okay, that sounds cool. Maybe I'll meet some interesting people along the way. But for sure, we have to have a message that resonates with a 18, 19, 20-year-old,
Yeah.
which it is about adventure. It is about learning. It is about growth. It is about career opportunity. Um, and as you know, this younger generation is a bit more practical. Uh, they want value for money. And so we have to prove that out. It's not just an adventure, but it's an adventure that will be a good investment. So that's all
Mhm.
in the messaging. And yes, we use influencers, these young, young influencers who are TikTokers or however I don't know. What is it? Someone who TikToks.
Influencers is a nice global term for
Yeah,
regardless of the platform. Yeah.
right. Yeah, there you go.
I think that it's so true, and and I think about a lot about message differentiation to different audiences, and attracting the 20 something who wants to go one set of sort of marketing media messaging, getting the parents who need to approve slash pay slash be involved in some logistics, might need a whole other set of marketing media and
Yeah,
messaging,
yeah,
right? It's and then you have to obviously attract faculty and staff and then donors on the back end and
yeah.
alumni engagement. So you have a lot of different audiences going on. And back to sort of the who manages and owns the brand idea, it's um you know, have you had issues with uh, folks going rogue or brand, sort of reputational concerns, and then how does, back to, you sort of like making sure the loudest messages or the most appropriate messages get through or get airtime. Like, how do you manage when you have somebody say, "Oh, well, I've seen that ship. It's like a bunch of kids who go shopping or go drinking." It's like that I think I hear from anyone who's maybe heard of it but has never experienced semester at sea as a
Yeah,
concern.
yeah.
Like, how do you react and manage through that?
So what we are not is a booze cruise.
Right.
Uh, what we are not is something called sex at sea. Uh,
I have not heard that one.
oh yeah, gosh, I've heard that one.
I
At the same time, if someone is 20 years old and they get a chance to travel to multiple countries, there is a certain percent, just like there are on college campuses,
hmm
who will go ashore and drink.
hmm
That is not like any college campus. That is not unlike any immersive study abroad. We have young adults who make decisions to consume alcohol when they're in country. But it is definitely not a booze cruise because
hmm
there is very little access to alcohol for students on board the ship. Very limited. Is it sex at sea? Well, just like on a college campus,
hmm
young adults will be promiscuous. So it certainly happens. But the vast majority of their time when they're on the ship is spent in classrooms,
hmm
in community events, playing board games when they're not in class, uh, and doing traditions like Sea Olympics and Neptune Day. So, this is a transformative learning and professional development experience unlike anything else. But you're right; those reputational issues exist. When you're talking to university partners, you know, what are the credits that they're getting? What are the courses that are available? What's the qualifications of the faculty? What's the quality of the in-country experience? Like we have to show that, and those
hmm
exist, and they're authentic to a parent. What's the safety? how do you care for these individuals? What kind of medical care? What kind of mental health care? Who are the resident directors? When you
Hmm.
talk to faculty and staff, how will they be taken care of? How will they deliver their courses? How will they help deal with students? So all of that, you're right. You
Yeah.
have to deal with all of those audiences.
Yep. That's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a
I mean, do you
lot.
find it, like, given, and then you layer on top of that just the normal sort of uh, business concerns as you were talking about, even, brand awareness and attracting leads and engaging and converting all the sales funnel stuff on top of it. Do you feel that you are, I don't know, unfair might be the wrong word, but like disproportionately dealing with sort of the myth busting over just being proactive in what you're wanting to put out there? Does it continue to dog the program, or is it pretty what you would expect?
Again, probably just holding opposites here. It's what I expect, and it's not what I expect. That is that sometimes I believe people need to just pay a little bit better attention, and
Hmm.
if they do, they'll know that it's not those things.
Yeah.
If they're
Yeah.
willing to have a conversation, if they're willing to listen for a minute, they'll know it's not those things.
Yeah.
Uh, at the same time, I know that attention spans are short. I know that people are extraordinarily busy. I know we all bring our biases. And so it's just constant work to overcome those false narratives, right? It's
Yeah.
just work.
I mean, and I think I think the brand story there too. It's no matter how well known you are. Semester at Sea is over 60 years old, right? If there's colleges that act like they haven't heard of you, it's because personnel has changed, right? But like
Yeah.
the organization is very well established in the international study abroad community,
Yeah.
but you can't ever rest on your laurels that people know or get it. Like the work is always there. You tell your story and you tell it again and again and
Yeah.
again. And that's true for brands that are just starting out. But as you're saying, like, your brand has work to do all the time on that. So, I mean, those reputational concerns sure are, as you say, you expect them, you don't expect them. Um, you know, there's even bigger issues going on. I think that, I've said this to you before, I'm certainly glad I'm not a college president these days. Like, what a risky job. And I'm not trying to make light of the issues that are affecting higher education at all. But from a point of leadership, Semester at Sea has traveled around the Middle East as part of its programming over the many decades. Global affairs are very much at the heart of what you are purposed for. So
Yeah.
how have you been? How has it affected you? And when I'm talking about it, it's like, there's been protests on college campuses, more so last spring is when we were hearing of them. How has that transferred over to the ship? Has it affected the business at all? And how is a program tasks with the mission of actually, having these tough conversations, grappling in a world where students are raising their voice around, global conflict?
There's a lot there, Jennifer.
I know, I'm sorry.
Wow. So let's go just broader, higher level. The world is, in my view, not more complex. We just know more about that complexity than we ever did. We see the news within nanoseconds. Uh, we respond to it. We operate oftentimes in echo chambers. We don't, humans on the planet don't seem to have a willingness to engage broadly with broad understanding, which creates these divisive voices. And so that's the distinction is the access to information, but our tendency to have singular channels for that information. So again, same level of complexity. Humans, cultures, societies, massively complex for as long as humans have existed, but it's how we're understanding the world that is the challenge. And again, this is just me talking.
Hmm.
So if anybody can accept that view, how do we operate a program within that context? Well, let's go to spring of 2024. It's worth going back actually in fall with the terrorist attacks in Israel, and then the response by Israel into Gaza and the West Bank. And um, you know, as you go back, you can go through the newspapers or whatever and see that things were only smoldering on college campuses in fall, but then it was in spring when things really got challenging, and that's the same for us.
Hmm.
Um, but let's go back to fall first, fall 2023 voyage. Our ship was actually in Greece on October 7th, and we were planning to go through the Suez Canal. Uh, and we had to make a choice, right? What are we going to do? Because our entire voyage was planned with countries, Jordan and Dubai and Mumbai, and finishing the voyage in Bangkok, Thailand. That was the plan. Every syllabus had been designed this way, every in country program had been designed this way. Uh, but fundamentally, we have to make the right decision for our voyage community and for everybody who cares and loves the program. So we had to make a decision, and we diverted, took a hard U-turn in the Eastern Med and went all the way around Africa. That's an expense for us. It's a significant expense for us, but it's the right decision. Um, and of course, it was had dramatic impact on our voyage community because they all had plans, and they were
Hmm.
thrown up and in the air, and we couldn't give them an exact plan right away.
Right.
Nothing humans like more than certainty, and we could not provide it. So, how do we proactively communicate that we're working on a plan? So that gives you some sense. But then let's go to spring when, the activities, the protests, the anger present on campus did find a place on our ship, and we had to figure out how to deal with it. Um, in some ways, we dealt with it well. In some ways, we didn't. We were definitely not perfect. But I think it's important to state here for all of your listeners, Semester C is about compassion, curiosity. It has no tolerance for hate of any kind. We are here to build global citizens who broaden their view outside of singular media channels. Uh, and we had to live up to that commitment, which was difficult. What's different for us is that we were able to use the summer to innovate quickly, whereas higher ed has a tougher time. Yes, they can revise their protest policies, which
Hmm.
we did, uh, but I think most profoundly what we did is we found an external partner. I'm sorry if I'm going on too long about this, but it
No,
gives you
it's
a
all
sense
really good stuff.
of how we can respond in a meaningful way in fulfillment of our mission. We found an external partner called Solia that does constructive dialogue facilitation training. So it trains people to be facilitators of constructive dialogue. To be clear, constructive dialogue is not to make sure everybody agrees at the end. It's
Right.
to make sure everybody understands at the end of the conversation. So we partner with them, and we send out a notice to our upcoming voyagers for this fall voyage to see if anybody wants to participate in this training and actually conduct these constructive dialogues on the ship. We get 50 applicants. We only have 20 slots, 20 people, 15 students, and some lifelong learners and faculty and staff go through that training and have been conducting constructive dialogue sessions on the fall voyage. I truly believe that has had a significant effect on the community. And we're doing it again for the spring voyage. We've already got half of that cost funded by donors because our donor community knows that this is our mission. This is the kind of work we need to do. We hope to get it all funded at some point because it's so true to who we are. So that's how we can respond and living into our mission.
And how are you incorporating that in all of that marketing and sort of the brand awareness? Because it's like I got chills when you're talking about it. It is so powerful and again to the parent audience, perhaps those who need to say, okay, I feel good sending you on this. This is such a differentiator in a way.
Yeah. Well, you're the marketing expert. I'll tell you, it's we do message it, but it's not easy to get to cut through the noise to say, listen, we're doing this too. I will say this is our first run with it, this current voyage, right?
Yeah.
We're going to do it again in the spring, and we'll have people who have gone through it, and they are the authentic voices for that experience. So
Yeah.
while we can message what we're doing, it is their voices who will really be the power behind that message ultimately.
Yeah, what is the impact? And
Yeah,
I have to imagine there'll be opportunities for you to capture that and create marketing from that because
yeah,
it's about the impact of it. But I think just even that as a recognition that, you know, we're not going to cut off the internet, and yes, you have internet on the ship, and the world continues, right? And you're part of
yeah.
it. So I think that's just a really fascinating part of it. And I quipped earlier, the beautiful 2020 hindsight lenses. I am a firm believer that we judging with 2020 hindsight is irresponsible and unhelpful, but learning from it is completely warranted, right? So when you think about your journey since you joined ISC and now at the helm of Semester at Sea, with that beautiful lens of hindsight, like what learning have you, had to maybe get the hard way and that it will influence you going forward?
Um, well, I'll harken way back. Uh, Probably sometimes in the early 2000s, I heard a commencement speech, and someone stated this 10-20-70 rule, which has stuck with me so much. And it's easier to say than to live into, but I do my best. The 10-20-70 rule that this person suggested we try to live into is 10% we control, 20% we can influence, and 70% we have no control or influence over. That 10% is just us. It's how we show up. The 20%, of course, are those we work most closely with. And the 70% is everybody else. So as
Mhm.
we show up every day, think about that 10%.
Mhm.
And you can say it's different percents. The power is just in the model that says,
Yeah.
we only have so much control, and really all we have control over is ourselves. Um, so let's use that as a start point and then talk about I can't care for my senior leadership team in any meaningful way if I don't take care of myself. So it's that concentric circle model. Well, self-care is at the middle. Uh, and so what am I going to do to make sure that my own physical, mental, and spiritual health are in line so I can show up every day?
Mhm.
And there's people out there who can talk about this much more articulately than me. All I can say is I'm a regular at the gym. I've figured out some tools around deep breathing. I think that there's some validity to that. Uh, I try to spend time with my wife and my boys whenever I can. I take the dogs for a walk. All the things that for any
Mhm.
one person means self-care. I truly believe that. You just can't show up for others if you're not taking care of yourself. Uh, and then this is probably and for me, I will say, the hardest part. And that is uh, really understanding flow rather than friction. Uh, and again, these aren't my words, I take them from other people, but flow rather than friction. So if we accept the 10-20-70 rule and we are taking care of ourselves best we can so we can care for others, then we have to be in a flow around the 70%, the best we can. Whether it's taking a hard U-turn in the Eastern Med, to dealing with the controversy around the spring voyage, to supporting our team as they innovate a new model for fall. We have to accept that we are just part of the system, and how can we flow with it? And then there's this friction. There's always a friction out there, whether it's a alumni who's upset that we're messaging about the program in a certain way that they don't agree with, or we're reinventing the alumni engagement process, or a donor who feels like we're not recognizing them in the right way. How do we find the flow within that friction?
Yeah.
That is, for me, that is a daily work.
So that sounds, there's a lot of reactivity to that, other than what you talked about, the part, just taking care of the self so that you can be ready to, flow or surf or ride it out or whatever metaphor we choose. But, when you think ahead to 2025, knowing you don't know what you don't know, obviously, but what are the challenges that are at the top of that list that you will be grappling with as you lead through 2025?
Well, I would say for me in my role, the first thing, and I don't, this is not cliche, this is not saying it just to say it on your podcast. This is something that I truly believe is every leader's fundamental responsibility, more so than it's ever been, and that is attention to the people in the organization. I don't know. Maybe there was an era when that was always someone else's responsibility. But I think the president of an organization obviously doesn't spend time with it every day with people throughout the organization, but they have to think about how to build a resilient, productive, forward-moving organization, and that's the people. So I just can't state that strongly enough. So bringing forward a new strategic plan, making sure that people feel engaged, doing pulse surveys around how people feel every quarter, making sure our compensation and benefits are competitive as a small nonprofit can be, all of that. So that's number one. Number two, for the program, our current ship, this is unique to us. There's not many other people thinking about a future ship, but we have to. The charter on the current ship runs out in April 2028, so we have to figure out what to do. And as you recall, we covered earlier, I grew up in academia. I didn't grow up in the maritime world. So
right. So if any of our listeners have a ship with, I don't know, passenger crew capacity of what, 1,000, 1,500, give Scott a call.
Big. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Not that big. So we'd like to carry 400 to 500 students, another 100 faculty and staff with all their families, and then another 200 crew or so, give or take. But
gotcha.
Total human capacity of 800 to 900 would be great. So they give us a ship. That would be really cool. Or if they just want to bring a lot of money to the table, we'll help them find the ship. So either way, we have that, and we've been working on it for over a year and a half because ship transactions are phenomenally complicated. Talk about a wonderful learning curve for me. Just learning about the used ship market, the new build market, ship financing, all of those things has been incredibly enriching, challenging. And then the third one I would just throw out there is, as you've brought up a number of times, we are a small nonprofit. And philanthropy is a huge piece of this. And I want to thank you and your husband for being generous donors to the program. And we are getting positioned for a future comprehensive campaign. In order for this organization to go for the next 61 years, we have to raise more money than we've ever raised. That's what will sustain this enterprise through all of the complexity that this world is presenting to it. And so I'm very excited. It's going to be a phenomenally complex undertaking, very, very time consuming. But if we can deliver on what we think we can, I think we will have done right by our alumni by doing so.
Yeah. And I mean, I can speak on behalf of like 2 to 3 alumni. The future sustainability of the program is the only thing we care about is probably way oversimplifying, but truly it's like anyone who's ever gone on it wants the next generation to be able to go on it. And it gives me goosebumps and thrills me that I have a son who's already sailed. I have another son who's going to be sailing in September of 25. And, there's a lot of pressure on my youngest one day, should he end up in this position, to carry on the family tradition. But it's amazing. And I think your leadership is a testament to one, the organization coming through COVID, you're strong, you're ripe for the future, and just the amazing impact that I think. And then going back to impact, I mean, you're a mission-driven organization that is trying to change the world, and I'm excited that we were able to bring more about sort of not just the marketing, but really the challenges facing Semester at Sea and your leadership. But this is, I'd like to, close it on a completely unrelated, totally fun and whimsical rapid fire, Scott. If you're
let's do it.
Game to play.
Let's do it.
Okay. Do you have a favorite social media? If so, what is it?
LinkedIn.
Okay. Taylor Swift, marketing genius or fast fad?
Oh, it's genius.
Okay.
But let's be clear. There's no way she accomplished all this on her own. No one ever does. Gotcha.
Book you always recommend?
Thinking, Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman.
Okay, we'll link that in the show notes. And where do you want to go on your next vacation?
Next vacation. Interesting. I don't have a vacation planned for a while. If money and time were not limiting factors, I would love to take my family back to Japan.
It's where it all started for you, your international exploration. So that sounds very full circle, which is wonderful.
Yeah. Well,
Scott, and this has been just such a fun conversation. I could talk to you for hours, and so we might have to come back and do some, maybe once you've got the first couple of voyages under your belt with this new sort of difficult conversation facilitator ship program to report back on. We'd love to hear more about that. But
for sure.
I appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to talk with the listeners of the M Word. And we've been talking with Scott Marshall, the president and CEO of the Institute for Shipboard Education. Thank you
Jennifer,
again,
thank
Scott.
you. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the M Word. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Subscribe and never miss a podcast. Visit arlingtonstrategy.com for more. The M Word is an Arlington Strategy production hosted by Jennifer Mulchandani. Our theme music is by Moochie. Graphic design by Kayla Fagan and Emily Rare. Sound engineering and editing by Ben Mulchandani.